Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Breaking Barriers, Affordable AI for Every Classroom. My name is Paulo Costa, EdTech Specialist and Sales VP at Critical Links, and I will be your host for this session. This webinar will consist of two parts, a 45 minutes presentation followed by a 10 minutes Q&A session. While audience microphones will remain muted, we encourage you to submit your questions in the Q&A chat at any time. We will address them in the Q&A session and in the end. Additionally, our attendees will receive an email with a link to download all the materials mentioned throughout this presentation. I'm also delighted to introduce my co-host, Daniel Gutwein, founder and CEO of N50 Project. With more than 30 years of experience in technology sector, Daniel has made significant contribution at leading organizations such as AT&T and Intel. In addition to his industry achievements, Daniel has shared his expertise as an educator as well at the University of Phoenix and Arizona State University, ASU. His unique blend of corporate leadership and academic insights makes him an invaluable voice in today's discussion. I'm honored to have Daniel with us, sharing his knowledge and perspective on this important topic. And of course, thank you all for joining us. Then the word is yours.
Hey, thank you, Paulo, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm just super thrilled to be here with you for the next few minutes and answer any questions you have. I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about the N50. For those of you that aren't familiar with the N50, it stands for the next 50%. When we started this particular project, about half the world was not connected to the digital world or participating in the digital world. And right now, there's still roughly around 3 billion people that are not participating in the digital world, including what we estimate about 1.6 million schools. And the N50 is all about trying to solve that particular issue around digital poverty. You can find all of our information. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this just the next few minutes, but you can research us at n50project.org and find out all about our organization. Let me quickly move through a couple of slides if I can. There we go. Hey, we do everything through initiatives, and we have a handful of initiatives that we've actually launched. Matter of fact, if I go back, oops, hang on one second. There we go. We've launched an initiative around EdTech for All, targeting the 1.6 million schools, bringing them into the digital world. We have an initiative that we have launched called For Womankind, where we focus on women and young girls entering the digital world for the first time. And then the initiative we're talking about today is called AI for All. And how do we bring AI, the power of AI, into the hands of every community member, student, teacher, healthcare worker, and so on? Every initiative that the N50 project takes on, we go through 4 different steps. One is we represent about 250 global tech partners and about 1 million tech employees, and we convene them together and really crowdsource them to help us solve problems. So we don't feel like we know it all. We utilize the deep technical and other expertise from our community to actually help solve particular problems. We then go through ideation and solution development, whether taking solutions that our partners have and helping them scale, or actually developing our own solutions under the N50 if one does not exist in the marketplace. We then test these solutions for increase and make sure that we're actually hitting the measurements that local communities need. And I'll explain that in a little more detail too. We do everything through community lens. So everything is local, solving problems as they define it and not as we define it. And then ultimately we want to measure and scale these solutions for impact and actually to help solve the problem. Real quickly, our AI, this is one right here, is our EdTech for All learning platform. And again, We've done this with multiple different partners. You can see photos here of what we've done where we don't bring in just a solution, but a holistic solution designed for the classroom that actually encompasses the learning needs of that classroom. One thing I'll point out on here, and you'll get these slides later, is with our partner Smart Technologies, who powers this initiative for us, we've been able to actually help develop and scale the EdTech Compass, which really helps local communities define, what are their tech needs or what's their readiness look like? What are the solutions they want to provide so we can make sure that we're designing the right things from our partners. And we've done this now. We've opened up over 60 labs now in 15 different countries, and most of that in just the past handful of months. On our EdTech for All initiative, if you want to, look at like how deep this goes, I'm not going to read all of these words. We've got about 76 N50 member companies working in the group. We're actively working in 30 plus sites. This framework was used by 10 and designed by 10 or more partners, so it's a very encompassing framework. It says 57 digital labs. We're actually up to 60 now. We've opened a couple in the last handful of days. And you can see, how we're poised for growth and to scale this with different ministries of education. We've also looked at our AI for All initiative, which I'll talk about here in a second. And this really, if you think about, 3 billion people not able to harness the power of AI, and we'll talk through that when Paulo and I get into some questions and answers. But how do we develop scalable, ethical solutions that schools and communities can use, whether they're online or offline? So, most of the time, connectivity is not the barrier. It's other things around that connectivity that become the barrier. Things such as cost, literacy, the tools to actually access it and interpret AI in certain ways. And so we've looked at this, initiative that we can even in low bandwidth schools or schools that aren't online be able to provide really powerful AI tools for the teachers and the students. And so, this initiative combines just the development, the education readiness, and then responsible use frameworks to make it a very practical human-centered tool for learning. And this is actually powered by Aero Electronics, and they've done a great job with us in enabling the community. If you look at this again, some of the scale of what we do with AI for All, it shows you what the N50 and the power of community-based and kind of crowd type of learning together. We've got over 90 N50 members working in this particular group. We've actually done pilots in Zambia, Ghana, the Dominican Republic, and Mexico City. We have 10 plus partner organizations contribute to a prototype and pilot deployment and integrated access across N50 digital labs, reaching, we think, around 20,000 learners today. And we just started this initiative back in June with Aero. So very proud of this. We have a partner subcommittee uniting both Intel Corporation, Smart Technologies, Arizona State University, and Aero that designs scalable and open access solutions for communities. And we're just really positioning the N50 as this bridge between global AI innovation and real world kind of education systems. And how do we ensure that all the schools, teachers, and students can utilize the power of AI as they define it necessary to solve their local problems. So that's where I wanted to stop. I want to give you a quick kind of overview of the N50. When the people think of the N50 and 50% of the globe and 3 billion people, they think this massive problem, and it is a massive problem. And what we're really trying to do at the N50 Project is to bring together leading companies. We've got about 265 now global tech companies that employ deep knowledge base, that deep technical base, and devise solutions in partnerships with local communities to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the local communities. And we do that through initiatives. I shared with you two of those today, being the EdTech for All and the AI for All initiative that we've actually launched. So Paulo, back to you. I know we want to get into the meat of more of the AI stuff, but I wanted to give a quick overview on the N50 project. And again, invite folks to, check us out on the web and some of our social stuff, and you'll see all the details behind what I just explained.
Thank you. No, I'm glad to see everything N50 has accomplished and the positive impact it is already having in all those communities. Just one moment. Let me get these slides back. Okay. Now I think that we need to turn our attention to the benefits of artificial intelligence in education. And to start this discussion, then I would like to ask you, from your perspective, What are the most promising ways AI can transform learning and teaching? You are on mute then?
Sorry about that, Paulo. Yeah, it's an interesting question and one that has probably multiple answers. And so I'm going to give you just basically a framework from maybe my point of view, and others will have different ideas around this. And I'd love to hear those. And again, hopefully you've felt that in the spirit of the N50s. We're a very collaborative organization as we go try to solve this problem. However, since you asked, from my perspective, when you think about AI and the power of AI, particularly around education, how do you, if you think about all that, is in front of a teacher on an average day, right? How do you ensure that that teacher is able to maximize their time in the best way to provide students a learning environment? And I firmly believe that AI, if used properly, and we've seen this in some of the use cases we've deployed, gives teachers back their time to teach and to facilitate learning by taking some of maybe the more mundane administrative kind of task around the teaching environment and maybe automating some of that. Um, it's able to provide students, I think, with like, self-paced learning, customized, for their, if you have a student that has learning challenges, AI certainly can help that. And then I also think, a promising way that AI can transform education is, how do you get maybe an early view and an early warning sign, perhaps if a student is falling behind in a certain subject or a certain topic. And I think, from as we think about this entire discussion, is we also need to remember that AI, from what I've experienced in my career in tech, is certainly more than just LLMs, right? I mean, language models are wonderful and there's a lot of power in there, but remember, when you think about AI transforming education, you have to think about robotics. You have to think about computer vision, the ability to quickly model and I don't know, find solutions to problems, whether it's in medical or healthcare or something like that as well. AI can do all of that. And so I want to make sure people think about AI. We often talk about AI as what we see from these large or even small language models, and I think it's really more than that. So I want to make sure people understand that a little bit too.
No, very interesting. One quote that I love to have is that when we are talking about education and all the innovation that is coming, we need to have in our minds that we are educating those kids for their future, not our past. Definitely, what I have seen at school, most of it does not apply on the reality of today. So I had to learn several other abilities in order to perform my job and my career. And considering that we need to more than think on only subjects, we need to think that those students need to have the ability to keep learning over time, because in the future they are going to be exposure to jobs that have not even been created. So I think that it's important that we highlight this aspect that not always is considered. Teaching kids about AI is not just about coding or using smart apps. It's about fostering adaptability or digital literacy and critical thinking, because those skills will not only help them thrive academically, but also ensure they remain employable in a labor market where AI is reshaping nearly every profession. We are already seeing this. Imagine 10 years from now. So, if we do some reading and researching, there are analysts that predict that most jobs in 2040 don't even exist today. And considering all of that, then how can we prepare future generations for this uncertainty?
Yeah, and again, great question. When you think about, the future workforce, and we deal with this quite a bit. As a matter of fact, we've got an initiative we're in the process of developing that's called Skills for All. How do you ensure that the right skills are available for, this 3 billion, person market? But I think as a very fundamental kind of like baseline in education, and we say this a lot, is we absolutely must be teaching our students how to learn, not what to learn. Because what to learn will change all the time, but how you learn it is this tool that you can put in front of your students that keeps them into what I call lifelong learning, right? How do you learn? Those things include you said critical thinking. I mean, obviously, critical thinking is right there. It's the questioning and the asking of why behind a lot of these answers or problems we have in the world. A natural curiosity, encouraging students to explore and to create. Communication, storytelling are critical elements around this. Reasoning, and I always say too is how do you connect learning to purpose, right? I mean, every human on the planet, desires this purpose, right? And a reason for certain things. And that's part of it, teaching students how to learn, not just what to learn. And I think fundamentally, if you want to solve the jobs of the future that haven't even been created today, well, you've got to figure out how do I learn those jobs of the future when they come or before they come. Which again, big fan of lifelong learning. Practice that my entire life. Encourage students to practice lifelong learning, but not really what to learn. What to learn? You're gonna we're gonna forget it, right? I mean, everyone knows, you know, I don't know, pi equals 3.14, 95, whatever. But how many of us have used that in the last 3 days? I mean, certainly some do, right? But so we've learned what it is, but how do we use it? How do we put it into practice in the real world? I think is what's really critical. And that's just one example of a million things I'm sure I was, told to learn, but not why to learn it in my entire career. So, and then I think just finally, if you want to solve these jobs of the future, I do meet folks that want to continually work against technology, think that it's constantly doing bad things in the world. And I challenge that. And I challenge with how do you work with technology, not against technology? Technology is not going anywhere. We're not getting rid of AI. So how do you work with it, learn it, and also then teach those tools to your students that will foster continual learning to get these jobs of the future.
Great. I think that we all understand and we agree with the importance and the need of AI, but deploying AI solution is not straightforward or simple. In your experience, what are the main challenges faced by developing countries in adopting AI?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've got a lot of, I mean, we've done a lot of this stuff, and just, whether it's AI or just technology as a whole, adopting it's not been easy. And, I've said it 1,000 times. I mean, when you look at like where the world is from a technical perspective, and then you still look back and you say, oh my, there's still 3 billion plus or minus people not participating in this digital world, and call it the digital divide, call it digital poverty, or whatever other term you want to put behind that. It's quite frustrating, if I can be honest with you, because this is not a technology solution. I mean, we're developing technologies that address some of the underlying concerns, but you've got a couple of these listed on this slide. But they're the barriers that we have found in working with our partners and doing a lot of research on this. And you can read most of the reports, I think, support this. I know the GSMA is a big partner of ours, and their reports certainly support this. It really stems back to literacy, digital literacy. How do you use this tool? How does it benefit you? Certainly cost is a massive barrier. And, I would say the third thing is really, what applications does technology provide that enrich the lives of those community members as they would define it, enriching my life, right? So not taking what we think is a good solution from the West and pushing it into some of developing country and saying, here's what you need from technology, to letting them actually start with what's the use case they want to go solve. Um, and obviously there's other concerns around here. You mentioned security and infrastructure and stuff like that. Certainly there as well. You must have local community buy-in for any of this stuff to work, quite frankly. Local community members that believe in this, that have the right use cases, that understand the local problem they want to solve, are willing to secure it both physically as well as from a digital perspective, protect the students, ensuring that power is there. Power is a massive issue, as you know, and many areas that we do a lot of solar installs. But notice one thing I didn't say. It's all of this stuff comes back and like, well, let's go connect the unconnected. But again, most of the world has the ability to connect, but that's not why they're not connecting. It's not like, oh, if I only had, a 4G, 5G tower outside, I would be doing this. We've found that this is not the case, right? Because many times there's a 4G, 5G tower outside and people aren't connecting because of these reasons. And that's why I'm quite frankly, and I wasn't paid to say this, and this wasn't even our script, but I'm excited to work with folks like Critical Links that look at it and say, even if you have connectivity, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to participate. So let's go develop solutions that enable that, and hopefully we're going to get into some of that as well today to show the folks on the call, some of the power of what you're doing.
Nice. Um, Although I think that all those challenges exist, there are enormous hidden potential in many developing countries. If we analyze youth population growth, we see these nations have rapidly expanding young population. And this creates a large potential workforce for the future. Combined with the fact that future jobs will require a new set of skills and abilities for them to remain competitive, this make top even more critical for the future economy of developing countries and their global impact. And I want to bring this to discussions because to show that we have an opportunity. There are people that sees as a challenge. I think that we need to reframe. I think that this is an opportunity. If we look in this first graph, it shows the school age population, 5 years old to 19 years old, while the second graph illustrates the population over 50 years old for the years of 2000, 2020, and the projection for 2050. The analysis of the total population reveals that Africa will be the main driver of global population growth in the coming decades, while Europe and to a lesser extent Asia and North America are moving towards stagnation or decline. So Africa is expected to more than double its population between 2000 and 2050 and rising from around 800 million to 2.47 billion people. This growth is driven by higher fertility rates and combined with reduced child mortality, but it also brings immense challenges in terms of infrastructure, employment, education, and environmental sustainability. Do you think that this is a challenge or an opportunity for those countries? What are the risks of developing nations will face if they do not invest in digital skills, AI, and innovation?
Yeah, Paulo, there's certainly some folks probably on this call that are even probably better equipped to answer this than maybe I. But I mean, my opinion only. It's both an opportunity and a massive risk, right? And we've got to ensure, well, I mean not us, but these countries need to ensure that the youth have the skills to actually get skilled jobs that provide economic, kind of stability for their countries as they continue to grow. And that comes back to how do you skill these students with the right tools and technologies to actually obtain the 85% of the jobs that you referenced earlier on. But I think at a very sum, right, if I'm going to like put it into a single sentence, I mean, if you fail to invest in digital skills and in AI and in tech skills, you absolutely risk massive economic decline even further than perhaps what is known today, which is very, very scary. Certainly, there's a widening gap that we're going to see between, the call it what you want, the developed nations, underdeveloped developed nations, the haves, the have-nots, the digitally literate, the digitally non-literate. Massive gap will absolutely incur. And I also think, if the local countries don't continue to skill the workers, then they're basically taking solutions from developed countries, right? Which perhaps, doesn't give them the sovereignty that they're looking for, I think, from the technical kind of control and knowledge base that, they so long desire. And again, I think all of us need to come to grounds and that technology is not going anywhere. This is a world that is shaped by technology. And so how do you ensure that the students that this younger generation, this school age population, which you're showing this graph is just growing so massively especially in the continent of Africa, how do you ensure that those students have the ability and the skills to obtain the jobs of the future? And by the way, I will also say, when you look at 85% of the jobs that aren't even here today that are going to come, going back to your earlier graph, Paulo, which I think is good to set the groundwork. I think the just kind of the stage of this whole thing. It's these students need to create those jobs. And that's what you got to look at it as. Is like, don't sit there and figure out like, okay, how do I skill a student to go get a job that exists today when you're saying that 85% of jobs aren't going to exist or that don't exist yet. So we've got to teach them these skills as how to go get those jobs. And quite frankly, if this is a world that, is increasingly shaped by technology, they have to have those fundamental underlying technical skills. And again, some of those learning characteristics and attributes we talked about earlier to ensure that they're going to be competitive in the future. And by the way, this isn't an Africa issue. This is a global issue, right? And so I think we all need to look at it like that and lend our expertise across maybe country lines to ensure that this is successful.
All right. Considering N50's AI project experience in developing countries, what should leaders and decision makers prioritize when adopting AI solutions, in your opinion?
Yeah, thanks for that too. And again, we ask, whenever we get invited into a community to do a digital lab or a digital, project of some sort. And again, we've done 60 of those. We've had one that we've been up and running now for the last 15 years. It's been very successful. But we always start with a single question of, okay, why do you want this? Why do you need this? Like it just goes back to, I mean, think about it. Communities have been totally fine for thousands of years without technology. Okay. Well, technology's evolved, right? But I mean, it's without what we would consider digital technology like we see it today. Okay, so when you look at it from that lens, you really need to start with a very clear problem you're trying to go solve, not a solution. And as much as and we do package things certain ways, we've got a lot of experience on doing digital, labs in rural communities. But as long as we try to, I think, standardize as much as possible, right? You build once and reuse many times. And what we found is that every community is completely different, and I'll give you an example. We did a rural community in southern Zambia, and we went to them, asked that question, like, what do you want to accomplish? What is the number one goal from the community perspective? The answer was literacy and just learning to read. And so when we designed a digital lab, the anchor application for that entire lab were reading tools in that local language, and books in a local language, and the ability to author books in a local language. And then we built the technology around that. And so I think so many times we come back and it's like, oh, here's a technical solution, go implement it. And it's like, oh, the power's not there, the application's not there, people don't understand how to use it, and it becomes a massive failure. And we've done this for years. So I think number one is start with, what is the number one thing you want to go solve, then build a solution around that. Um, I think the other thing too that we've found, and this is where I think the N50 is very unique, is for years we've looked at, when we put technology out there as point solutions or point kind of tools. So it's like, oh, here's a laptop. This will solve all your needs. Well, if they don't have power, connectivity, security, applications, a laptop is nothing more than, a paperweight. It holds papers from flying away. And by the way, we've seen that. We've seen laptops that were never turned on before. Or we see people come out like for example, I'm a critical links. If you put a box out there, but no one has the tools to read the material on it, does no good. We've seen, everyone has a mobile phone in today's world, right? But if they don't know how to use that and what the digital world can explore it really does no good. So in and of itself, like these individual technical solutions do not solve the problem. All of them working together in harmony to solve a use case, solve the problem. That's where I think the N50 excels. We have hardware providers in our ecosystem. We have connectivity providers in our ecosystem. We have, power alternatives in our ecosystem. By the way, we did two schools with our partner Aero Electronics last year, where we first went in, and the first thing they needed was furniture. How is a student going to learn to type if they don't have furniture, just a desk to put a system on, or hold a laptop? I mean, it's so we had to get furniture, like simple needs like that, that we look at. And I think that, again, you've got to look at this from a holistic solution, and really do that. And I said the third thing. So the first thing is, really, starting with a use case, not a solution. The second thing is looking at it holistically. And I'll tell you this too, and this is a passion of mine. Coming out of the tech world, and things move at this massive speed and change all the time. I would encourage communities, organizations, countries, ministries of education, think about speed over perfection. It's very difficult to get a perfect solution that solves all of your problems for this perfect budget, all this stuff. Think about speed over perfection. Let's go do one thing, solve one use case, and then build upon that. Once you have the right, infrastructure in place, you can add different applications that solve multiple solutions. And I feel like sometimes we want to get everything so perfect because we don't want to do harm by doing it incorrectly, that we actually do harm by leaving people behind. And I would encourage people to look at like speed over perfection, because we can change things and technology does change. And, if, you know, we're looking for perfection, we might all just, still be trying to figure out where's the right place to put the printer. Right? Well, no one cares anymore. So I think those are the three things I would probably encourage, you know, solutions doing it, and with AI solutions. There's so many out there, and it's like, how do you make it perfectly sovereign just for my country, just for my issue? How do you make sure it doesn't hallucinate at all? Well, we can fix those problems, but let's at least test something, get something in the market so we know what to go fix. I feel like sometimes we want to fix everything and build it perfectly for every little persona, every little situation, and we end up doing nothing. Or by the time we get it perfect, the world's already moved beyond that.
All right. Could you give us some insights and share what is the N50 offline AI solution and how you have conceived that?
Yeah, yeah. So, and again, this is just a quick kind of overview of just some of the things that we can do. But so when the N50 comes out, we do have solutions that are highly customizable for local communities. And we've tried to develop solutions that are very low cost, low power, and also provide that offline, access particularly when you're paying, per gigabyte of usage, for data access. And so we've gone into schools, and you'll see there we have, this one we do have an offline AI solution which we partner with Critical Links on, which provides both this online and offline solution. But we also have what we call a connectivity kit, which isn't on this slide, but you can see a little bit in the lower part there where, you can take a single computer and, really virtualize it into multiple different environments, each with their own OS, their own applications, their own graphics, to where you can lower the cost barrier in several areas for students to get online. We sometimes, in some cases, will do a laptop, a low-cost laptop solution. In some cases, we'll do a refurbished laptop solution with very good grade A laptops. In a lot of cases, we'll do desktop solutions. And when we do that, we try to virtualize them through this N50 connectivity kit, with some technology developed with Intel and other partners to actually help, reduce the costs there. And then everything there, we try to have both an online and offline solution there so that students can actually utilize the tools, the community can utilize the tools, to actually access content, without using, top up minutes and gigabytes of data to actually go access it. I'll give you an example, back to the example I shared with you before about that rural community in Zambia where we did a literacy program, with our partners, with All Children's Reading, World Vision, and a couple of other folks. We were able to actually put, several hundred books offline for the community to actually utilize. We then built we call it a community network. Most people would call it just an extended Wi-Fi network in the community where if someone had a mobile phone or some sort of device, they could actually log in to their community network, not utilizing the internet, not paying dollars for gigabytes of access, but log into that, deep cache solution there that's offline that had hundreds and hundreds of books on it, and they could actually sit there and read books, without utilizing it. And we saw a great increase in literacy in that little community from a simple solution like that. So in all areas, we try to do, multiple different ideas here. You can see in this particular picture, it looks like a teacher is pointing at a giant whiteboard or chalkboard that's actually interactive smartboard. We've seen this multiple times where students interact with technology, touch technology, and listen, if you want your students to learn and enjoy learning and continue learning, you've got to make it fun. You've got to make it exciting. It's got to be, interactive and energetic. And a lot of these tools that we do, like interactive smartboards, make it just that. So a lot of different solutions. We do have kits that we put out there that are highly customizable for local communities, which we've seen work in multiple different environments. And then we can do all kinds of things, both online and offline, and all kinds of different, devices to actually utilize it, depending on the community, depending on the budget, and how they can do that. Do you want me to talk about the offline AI, Paulo, or are you going to go into that?
Sorry?
Do you want me to talk about the offline AI piece on this? I didn't,
Yeah.
or are you going to go into that?
I think that you can, if you want, then I can do a demo to show
Yeah.
what is
So
possible.
yeah, okay, great. So with all the things that we do, one thing that I think we're probably the most excited about is this offline AI solution with Critical Links to their microcloud. You can see in their C3 microcloud. We've deployed this now in a good half a dozen schools. And the beauty of it is it takes the traditional C3 that's got libraries of just tons and tons and tons of data in it. And you'll see this in a moment. And it enables it with an AI tool that allows, students to actually research, build things, teachers to actually build lesson plans in literally seconds instead of spending hours and hours of this. And it's this assist tool that we found amazingly beneficial for both teachers and students. But the beauty of it is it runs completely offline. And so once it's installed, you can connect to it and build these tools, utilize learning without actually, like I said, in a lot of these cases, you've got to use certain gigabits a minute. And even if we do, a Starlink or an LEO there, remember there's multiple plans. You use 50 gig a month, 150 gig a month, unlimited usage, all that costs money. So we're trying to figure out how do we give the most data and educational tools to the school with the connectivity that they have, or if they don't have connectivity, how do we give them that as well? That's what the microcloud is allowing us to go do. And I think you're going to give a demo of this. I'm pretty excited about, scaling this, throughout the world, quite frankly.
Yeah, thank you. And could you give an example? Because you have seen some of those deployments, teacher
Yeah.
looking on those solutions for first time. What are their reaction and
Yeah.
interaction with those tools?
Yeah. So I'm a teacher. I teach at the university level, and I use AI all the time to just help me make sure that it's not doing the thinking for me. It's helping me be better. And so like oftentimes like, hey, the last example or case study that I used for my students didn't seem to resonate as I wanted it to. Can you help me develop that more? And it will help you develop that. One of the most, and again, how do we get the teachers to facilitate learning, not to be doing some of the administrative work in the background? And so one of the coolest things that I saw is we recently deployed this at a small school in Mexico City. And we asked administrator and a couple of teachers to sit down and we didn't teach them how to do this, just say, just use this and ask it questions. And, I mean, if you think about AI for just a moment, I want to set the stage for folks here too. If you're using I don't know, a chat GPT of some sort, whatever your favorite, language model is, and it's trained on, let's say, 15 trillion tokens, you got to ask yourself, what is a token? And what does 15 trillion tokens really mean? Like, how powerful are these tools? And 15 trillion tokens would be, Paula, like you going out and reading 100 million books and remembering every word, every correlation, every predictable outcome. And I say, Paula, if you can go read 100 million books and remember everything, I think you'd be a pretty darn good teacher. By the way, you'd also be a really good medical doctor, a good priest, whatever you want. I mean, you would be you have a lot of knowledge. And so how do we get that knowledge now into these areas? And if teachers can utilize those kind of powerful tools in developed areas where they have unlimited internet access, why can't they do that in the most rural areas in the planet? So those teachers actually stay there, and that's how we can skill the students. And so when we sat down in Mexico City, and again, it's a connected area, right? But they weren't utilizing it the right way, and the internet was kind of spotty and it's expensive. And so we put this in there and sat the teachers and a couple of administrators down, and they started asking me questions about building lesson plans. Can you give me a better way to build a lesson plan? I've got 30 minutes. Here are the tools that I have. Here's the concept and the outcome I want to teach and to see. And within seconds, they just built it. And it was fascinating, fascinating. One of the best tools we've ever deployed.
All right, thank you for the feedback. Uh, and to bring the discussion to life, I would like to do a quick live demonstration of the C3 microcloud with AI, our micropod tool. And this will give you the understanding of the topic that we are discussing today, how those tools can transform education and how this can benefit the education worldwide, even in places without connectivity. What I do have here in my setup is my computer connected to one of those small C3 boxes. And I will just open my browser and I will type the URL to enter into the C3 solution. As you see, I'm connected to this C3 microcloud, and I have access to a lot of features. I have access to content. I have access to applications that I can use, even if I do not have connectivity. And any student in the same environment will have access to those tools and will be able to use those tools from their tablets, from their phones, and their computers. But one of the things that we want to show today is how the AI tools can be used on those environments. We have in here the micropod tool. First of all, I will show the normal chat that you can just place a question in it, and it will process locally, even if you have no connectivity, and it will provide you with an answer about your question. See that it's pretty fast. It gives you exactly what you want. And then the teacher can take this answer and can keep the conversation going. He can ask, okay, now I want a quiz of 10 questions about this topic for grade 5. Or do I want a lesson plan around this topic? I can keep the conversation. But besides the chat, what we have done was knowing that sometimes we do not know all the power that the AI can bring, we have transformed it in tools in order to make easier for the teacher to understand its potential. For example, I'm a teacher, I know what is a lesson plan, and maybe I want to see different views on a specific lesson plan. I can come in here and say that I'm a teacher on grade 5, and I teach about science, and I want to talk about photosynthesis for beginner, and I will say that I have interactive board in my room, and I will just say that my class will be 60 minutes. And then I submit this to the AI, and the AI in the background will transform this into a complete request that is very detailed, and it will bring as an answer a complete lesson plan. See that it understands what is a good lesson plan, because it knows that you need to have learning objectives, you need to divide everything into the time that you have, and it brings, it considers the resources that you have shared, that you have access to, for example, interactive board, and it will create and give you all this information. You can use the whole of it, you can use just a part, you can use to enrich your own, to have a different view of your own lesson plan. So this is very powerful because it brings information in real time with simply by just asking what you want. We have tools for lesson planning, for generating quizzes, to create study planning, to explain a topic, to correct essays, or to do text translation. So as you can see in any of those, it's pretty simple and straightforward. And the beauty is that you can actually ask about anything. So let's say that I'm on grade 8, and I will just put something from a bit more different. Let's say that I want to talk about economics, and I want to talk about inflation rate. And the explanation needs basic. The purpose is, let's say, a student handout. The explanation should be a narrative and include discussions, questions, for example. And it will take this, considering it has a huge knowledge base, it understands the question right away, and it will build whatever I have asked it. So the C3 is made with a huge knowledge base that has all the subjects and all the grades compiled in it. So you can answer everything. And the beauty is that we have built this in order to be safe, because the tool is powerful, but you do not give sometimes powerful tools to a kid without guidance. A kid can use a knife, but you need to teach how to use. You need to make sure that the knife does not have, is very sharp. So the way that we do this, we make a solution that is secure, making sure that we know what is the knowledge behind. We know that we do not allow wrong information to come in, and we try to avoid hallucination. It needs you need to make sure that it takes into consideration the different personas. If you are a teacher, if you're a student, if you are a grade 5 or a grade 8 student, all of that need to be taken into consideration. You need to make sure that it's functionally is specific, because in the way that AI works, the way that you do the questions is very important. So you need to make sure that we have all the important information to get a better answer. So this is why we have the tools. We have a huge prompting and a huge research behind the scenes in order to make the answer to be good enough for your use. And it needs to be economically feasible, meaning that it needs to be affordable. So this is just to give a quick introduction about some of those tools that is already available to the market. I do not have much more time, and we still need to go under some Q&A session. And to use the final minutes of our presentation, I will check what are the main questions that were placed. And to get started, let me just 1 minute open the window where I have the questions.
Hey, and Paulo, while you're opening that window, if you think about just what you showed, going back to the very first thing you showed with the graph and the mathematics solution you were solving, just think about the amount of time it takes a teacher. They'll turn their back to the class normally and write on a board and draw that graph out, right? I mean, it's a good 10 minutes just to draw the graph out. And think about the power of technology and just making learning much more efficient and effective.
All right. I do agree. And we do have questions from Tiang Cho, South Sudan. Given the infrastructure challenges related to use of technology, how can AI in education be adopted in rural school setting?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that.
great question. We do this, just what Paulo just showed you operates completely offline. It's a small box that we'll put into your school, and it's got Wi-Fi connectivity to it. You can connect with any tool. If you don't have the tools, we can help you procure those tools, whether it's a phone or a laptop or a tablet of some sort, or a projector, even in some cases, where you've got infrastructure issues. We're still bringing the power of this AI tool to you. So we can absolutely do this with infrastructure issues. We deal with infrastructure issues all the time.
Good. There is another one from, uh, I will not pronounce the name in order to not commit mistakes, but it's a question from Zambia. How can AI enhance the teacher and learner experience in an offline grid setup? I do think that you can take this considering how can AI can enhance, because it doesn't matter if they are offline or not, but how can AI enhance the teacher and learning experience in your opinion?
Is that for me, Paulo? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
How can AI enhance the learning experience?
yeah, the teacher and learner experience.
Well, I think just the demo that you saw probably answers that question. I mean, that's just a small snippet of the power of what it can do. But I mean, again, if you think about the power of this tool, it equalizes, quite frankly, the playing field for teachers to be able to, create and share knowledge and help with the learning environment. Incredibly powerful. But I think that demo you did probably answered that question.
All right. We have tons of questions, but we are getting on the top of the hour. I would like to say to everyone that have placed questions, we will answer each of those by email. So you will get your question answered. Thank you all of you for joining us today. We hope you found this webinar insightful and valuable. I would like to extend a special thank you to my co-host, Daniel Gutwein, for providing good source of insights about AI strategy for education and about N50. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
If anyone has further questions or would like additional information, please feel free to reach out to us. We look forward to continue this conversation and to explore more about how AI can transform education. Thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful day and stay connected.